people of God. I hope you are having a fantastic week. You are listening to the Cornerstone podcast produced by Global Grace Ministries. My name is Francis Hueso. We are in the middle of the series, The Promises of God in Isaiah. Last week, we discussed the promise of protection found in Isaiah 43:2. Talking about that promise, I thought about King David and the fact that he didn't have to fight Goliath. He chose to do it. I believe he did it because God led him to do so. David knew that the Lord was with him. Besides his knowledge of God's faithfulness, David also knew God had been preparing him for such fight. Go with me to 1 Samuel 17 and we'll read verses 34 and 35, which read, "But David said to Saul, Your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or a bear came and took a sheep from the flock. I went out after it and attacked it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. And when it rose against me, I grabbed it by its mane and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has defied the army of the living God." You see, when Saul tried to discourage David from facing Goliath, David told the king of Israel, "Do not worry about me. This is not my first rodeo." David felt prepared because he had experienced fighting enemies way bigger and stronger than him. Today, my friends, I want to speak exactly about that, preparation. It is crucial that we depend and that we claim God's promises for us to live victoriously. But it also is important to live as prepared as possible to face difficulties. Not because we live in fear, but because God has asked us to be wise. God is a God of preparation. Before he created Adam and Eve, he prepared for them. By the time he gave Adam the breath of life, God had already made for him a beautiful home with everything he would ever need. If you are wise with your finances, you trust God as a provider, but you also still go to work every day and hopefully live within your means. When a couple is about to have a baby, if they are smart, they prepare for that child. We know that no matter how much a couple prepares, no one is ever ready to become a parent for the first time. But I think we can all agree that the couple who has a crib, clothes, food, diapers, and a car seat for their child will have a better and easier time than the couple who has nothing to welcome their baby home. Now, we're not going to talk about how to be prepared for a family. Maybe at a later time, but not today. Today, I want to talk to you about how to be prepared for emergencies or natural disasters. With the changes in weather that we are experiencing worldwide, there is no country in the world that does not experience some kind of disaster every year. Besides, even if you never experience a catastrophic disaster, such as a big earthquake or a hurricane, we can all suffer from smaller ones, such as house fires. It's also a good idea to be prepared for events such as stroke or heart attacks. I think every believer should trust God for protection from disasters and for healing or his assistance in emergencies, but it is also wise to be prepared to face them. After all, the Bible doesn't guarantee us that none of us will suffer such emergencies. What it asks us is not to be afraid. I think it is easier not to be afraid if we are prepared. So I hope you don't mind if today we talk a little bit about disaster preparedness in this episode. I have entitled it, Prepare, Not Scared. This will be an out of the ordinary kind of episode. I will try to give you very practical information, and I hope you don't mind me talking about such topic. With my new secular job, I assist people in some of their worst moments in life, and I have learned that many people could have an easier time avoiding some losses or could have recovered from those losses quicker by being prepared. So please bear with me and do not tune out. The first thing I want to recommend to all of you is that at least one person in your house gets certified or at least trained in how to perform CPR. Many people die from heart attacks or cardiac arrest each year who could have been saved if someone around them had performed CPR or cardiorespiratory resuscitation. You don't have to spend lots of money to learn CPR. You can Google it, and you can find many videos that will give you enough information to know how to save a life. My next recommendation for every household, no matter where you live in the world, is that you have a preparedness kit. Obviously, each household will have a different kit to meet the needs of each house because they vary. Nevertheless, let me try to give you just a few basic ideas to help you start your kit. Many people who suffered the fires of Los Angeles in January could have saved time and avoid difficulties if they had had these kits. You'll start with either a backpack or a small suitcase, or even a pillowcase may work. All you need is something that can carry a few crucial items but that is light enough to run with it. In it, you'll keep either the originals or copies of your most important documents. You want to include copies of your Social Security, your family's birth certificates, certificates of insurance, titles of homes or cars, or car registrations. It is also a good idea to have copies of your IDs and maybe some school's transcripts. It is also good to keep copies of any prescription for medication your family may need in that kit. Sometimes, if you have the money to replace those medications during a disaster, you can't do it without the prescriptions, and getting them from your doctor in a disaster takes precious time that you may not have. You also want necessities in such kit, such as toiletries, non-perishable food, and bottled water. You'll need a first aid kit, a flashlight, and batteries for the flashlight. Please do not put the batteries inside the flashlight, for they will die on you before you can use them. What you can do is wrap the batteries with tape around that flashlight. You also need a pair of scissors or a utility knife. Make sure you also throw in your kit food or snacks for your pets if you have them, and at least one change of underwear for each member of your clan. It is also a good idea to have a little money in your kit, a little cash, just in case the electricity is gone and you need gas or to buy some food. Even if stores are open, sometimes they don't have the capacity to charge things on cards, so they take cash. I also recommend you have enough food and water for 3 days for every member of your family in a separate container at every home. You need an emergency kit you can carry in case of a fire or in case you have to evacuate for whatever other reason, and a bigger container with food and water to be able to survive at home for at least 3 days. Even if you live in a country like the United States, sometimes it takes up to 3 days for someone to rescue you. If you live in places where you know that the loss of electricity also affects your water supply, please prepare for you to have enough water for necessities besides drinking water. If you can afford it, it is a good idea to have an electric charger for your phones and tablets, and please keep it charged and ready. A dead charger is useless. Also, something very important is to have an evacuation plan for your family and to rehearse it with them. In a home fire, you'll have 2 minutes to exit your house before smoke becomes a problem. 70% of all the fatalities in fires occur because of smoke, not necessarily flames. Please teach your family that since smoke rises, they need to get as low as possible during an evacuation of a house on fire. The most important part of an evacuation plan, besides knowing where all the exits are and being able to get to your door or that exit as fast as possible, is having a meeting place. In a fire, it is very common for different members of the family to run out and go to different places. When the fire department arrives at those homes, the first question they ask is everyone out? If you don't know where your kids ended up after they evacuated the house, those firefighters will risk their lives or waste precious time unnecessarily trying to save someone who is already out of the house. So please choose a meeting place close enough to your house that every member of your household can get to it, but far enough to be safe. Also, please do not ever go back to a house or a building on fire once you got out. If you live in a country where you have smoke detectors, please test them at least twice a year to make sure they work. If they don't work, replace the batteries or detectors. Those detectors have saved thousands of lives every year in many countries. Also, it is important to note that fire is the only emergency where you call for help after you get out of that house. Do not waste precious time trying to call the fire department while you are still in a house on fire. Leave the house as fast as possible and then call the fire department. It is also a good idea to have a fire extinguisher at hand in every home. If you cannot afford one, there are also fire blankets that are inexpensive and very easy to use. Please get a couple of those blankets and keep them accessible. Never leave a flame unattended and teach your children to always extinguish any fire before they leave a room. Candles are one of the most common reasons for fire in the United States. I also would like to remind you that extension cords and power cords need to be used correctly. Please teach your children how to do that. Also, if you live in a place where fireworks or firecrackers are legal, please do not leave children or young people unattended with them. In the United States, many wildfires have been started by people who were not paying attention while having fun with fireworks. You probably are wondering by now, why am I talking about such things in this podcast? Well, after helping so many people during tragedies that could have been avoided, I have decided to do my best to inform God's people about simple things we can all do to be prepared while we are also trusting God for protection. Where I live, the summers are extremely hot, and many people go to the rivers and lakes to cool off. If you and your family enjoy spending time in the water, please make sure that as you bring with you all the food and drinks that you will consume, you also need to bring a few items that can save your life. Make sure you always have a first aid kit at hand. Make sure you hydrate the entire time you are in the sun. Also, please avoid sodas or caffeinated drinks if you are going to spend time in the sun. Something very important to know is that you should never swim alone in a river or lake, and never swim in places where you don't know how deep the water is. Make sure there is a designated adult to watch children the entire time they are in the water. And if anyone is ever drowning, do not try to save them without a life jacket on. The best thing to do is to tie a life jacket or a lifesaver to a rope and to throw it to the person who is drowning and then pull the person out of the water. More people drown trying to save others than for any other reason. Often the person drowning survives while the rescuer does not. Always keep flashlights in your car and something that in case of emergency can be used to break your car window and cut your seatbelt. There are very inexpensive tools that you can buy that are just for that. But if where you live those tools cannot be found, please make sure you always have something in your car that can be used to break windows. Most modern cars have neck rests that can be pulled out and used to break windows. You can die in a burning car or a submerged car if you cannot get out of your car quickly. Also, please don't drive while you are extremely tired or when visibility is not safe. I know many people who have fallen asleep while driving and have gotten into accidents. Some thank God that they have survived with just some broken bones, but I also know someone who killed another person because he fell asleep while driving. I don't care how crucial it is to get where you're going. If the roads are not safe or if you are physically not ready to drive, please do not do it. Some people get to heaven before their time for lack of wisdom. Now, let me tell you something most people know, but do not do it. It is very important to have some savings, some little money set aside for emergencies. Unless you are barely surviving, we can all save a little money. Instead of buying the expensive coffee you treat yourself with every day or twice a week, save the money for what we call a rainy day. Stop buying clothes you will never wear or don't need, and please stop living above your means. I know people who have accused God for not providing them when they have wasted a lot of money on things they didn't need. Remember that God wants us to enjoy our lives, and He usually gives us way more than what we need. But He also expects us to be good administrators of our finances. Now, if you are in a situation where you are living by faith for your basic needs, God will always provide. And He also understands that you are doing the best you can with what little you have. If that is the case, keep standing in faith. And I know that one day you'll have enough to save money. But I know people who make 3 times what most people make and are still broke. If you are in that group, you will have a rougher time than most people if you ever face a disaster. It is never a good idea to live above our means. It is better to tighten up our belts and have good savings than to have everything we want and lose it all if we ever become unemployed or face an emergency. People of God, the world in which we live will not get better. I hope you don't think I am being negative about making such declaration. The Bible tells us that things before Jesus returns will go from bad to worse. Yes, we have many promises in the Bible that we can stand on, and I'll keep teaching it. Nevertheless, God has put it in my heart to remind you that it is wise to believe for the best of God, but also to be prepared just in case God allows us to go through rough waters. It would have been foolish of Noah to build an ark and not save food. God sent the wise men with gifts to prepare Mary and Joseph to escape to Egypt with Jesus. Yes, Jesus can multiply anything and feed thousands via miracles, but God also has given us an intellect and common sense. Let us use it. Proverbs 21:31 tells us, "The horse is prepared for the day of battle, but victory belongs to the Lord." No matter how prepared a horse is, victory comes only from God. Yet still the horse must prepare. Hebrews 11:7 says, "By faith Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark for the salvation of his household." My family, we do not live in fear. We live in peace, knowing that God is our Savior and Protector. Yet, we still live in a world that is falling apart. Please, my family, be wise and have something at hand that might make your life and the lives of your loved ones a little easier and a lot safer in case of an emergency. Look around you. What natural disaster do the part of the world where you live face every year? Make sure you are prepared for such disaster. Learn CPR and first aid so you can tend to anyone around you if those skills are needed. Save a little money. Make an evacuation plan for your family. Pray and believe God for protection, but be prepared so you're not scared. Be ready to face an emergency. I pray that we never have to do it, but if we do, let us all be prepared. For more information about our ministry or to send a prayer request, please contact us at info@globalgraceministries.com.